Thank you so much for coming tonight, guys. I want to introduce, actually, before we do that, please give another round of applause for this youth group coming together. And this is such a start for our church that I love to see this. So continue being prayer for them as they continue to develop. But also, I want to introduce tonight, we have a guest speaker who is a good friend of mine. He told me to keep it short because he doesn't want to get embarrassed and he doesn't want to get up really high and then he doesn't preach really well. But I know that he will preach really, really well. But from First Baptist Atlanta, where I was at, he was my cohort in student ministry. If you could, please give a warm welcome to Stephen Nix.
Thank you, Pastor Joe. I'm in Matthew chapter 6, if you would. Matthew chapter 6 in your Bibles. Abbott and Costello and Bert and Ernie and Laurel and Hardy and Pastor Joe and I were buddies until he left and you took him away, but none of us are bitter. We are rising above. In my house, I grew up in Florida. I grew up in Orlando, outside Orlando. I say Orlando, but it wasn't really Orlando. I grew up in a little town of 800 people, and there were these lions, these little wooden lions over my parents' hallway. They were just over the hallway, almost a doorway, if you will. And somehow we inherited them when my parents downsized because I wanted them. I don't even know where they are now. We probably still have them. There's probably in some closet. But we had them in our house for a while in North Carolina when I was a pastor, assistant pastor there. And when we moved them, when we took them down to move, I was startled by the change that it made in the house. You get so used to something when you walk by it every day, those little knickknacks in your house that you think, oh, I really want this in my house, but you get used to it, and then you move and you're like, whoa, that was a big difference. And I want to do that with the Lord's Prayer tonight. So this is the passage of the Lord's Prayer, and I want to read it for you in just a minute. But I want to give you some, I call it maybe experimental theology. I want to look at the passage in a way that hopefully makes you just think about it a little differently. I understand that Jesus spoke it, and he spoke it on the Sermon on the Mount, and it's really a helpful thing to know that the Lord's Prayer is an outline for us to follow, a way for us to pray. That's all very, very good, and I've preached that before, and that's the correct way to interpret it. It also reminds us not to have vain repetition, though, right? We shouldn't just say the Lord's Prayer. That's not the extent of what the Lord had for us when he gave it to us. He wants us to use it as a model, to include these things in our prayer. But I want to look at the theology that you find in the Lord's Prayer. And I think you'll understand as I get going. It's a little different sermon. And so I want to read from you in Matthew chapter 6, we can start verse number 5. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and the street corners, and they may be seen of others. Truly, I say to you, they receive their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father which is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Be not like them, for your Father knows what you have need of before you ask him. Pray then like this. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I left off the traditional ending. Some texts include it and some don't. That's not a guest speaker subject to tackle. That's a senior pastor subject to tackle. And so I'll leave it off and stop there. But I'm sure many of you learned it a different way as I did growing up. So let's look at this text, though. We have plenty to cover in the next couple minutes. Don't panic when I go slower the first couple points. We will get done tonight. We will get done. We will get done. I drove 5 hours from Atlanta like 20 minutes ago. We will get done, and I will go to bed tonight, and we will get you in bed because I know it's a holiday evening, and so tomorrow I'm sure you have plans. Number one, our Father in heaven. Let's look at this. So we have, number one, our Father in heaven, and then under that, A, it's ours, not yours, not mine. So communal church experience is God's plan for you. God's plan for me is to experience him inside the community of the church. Corporate religious experiences is God's plan for your entire life. You must have a personal relationship with God, but then he desires you to join a family of believers and do life inside the church community. I grew up in Florida, then moved to North Carolina, and I was in North Carolina for 12 years, and I was responsible as the assistant pastor to do the bus maintenance, which I liked because I got to go to the truck shop. And that's what it was called, the truck shop. It wasn't real creative with the title. It wasn't like, it's like Bob's place. It's you get the whole thing right there, the truck shop. And so I would bring the bus in there, and this place was great. It was great. He was the guy that had the cannon on the wall, which I liked. I wanted one of those. He had a bayonet over his desk, or a shotgun over his desk with a bayonet on it. And he told me it was loaded. I asked him one time, I said, how do you keep people from stealing this stuff? He's like, son, you see that thing up there? Shotgun, bayonet. Yes, sir. It's loaded. And I was like, well, praise the Lord. I have come to the right spot. I'm at the truck shop, and there was a gentleman there, a mechanic that worked there, and we were talking about our faith and our Savior. And I said, well, where do you go to church? Oh, no, I'm a Christian, but I don't go to church. And so you might be a believer, and I have no problem with that theology. But a Christ follower values the bride of Christ, the church. Jesus doesn't have this exemption for people of some should go to church and some should not, and maybe avoid church sometimes, and when it hurts you, and then go other times when it's all going good. No, we go all the time. Not these people. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know where they are. Did they get the plague, or we'll have to talk about it later. You can fill me in later. I'm on this granola kick. I don't know why. I'm on this granola kick. And I'm making my own granola. I'm not really sure why. I don't know. I like all the other things in life, but I'm on this granola kick. You go on kicks in your life where you're like, I really want that. I'm not pregnant, I promise, okay? I'm a dude. But I don't have, cravings. But I'm on this granola kick. And to make granola, you got to have oats, right? And you can eat raw oats and survive, just like plain raw. I don't understand the steel cut and the rolled and the sprout. I don't understand that. I don't understand all that terminology. But you could eat raw oats and drink water and probably survive. But you'd be malnourished. You'd suffer. You'd suffer from flavor deprivation, the excitement of life that God has given us in flavor. You'd suffer from just the vitamin deprivation of that raw oats can't provide the protein you need, all the other things you need, right? And so you would suffer from all this stuff. So you can have Jesus and be saved and on your way to heaven, and that is 100%, I believe that, right? Jesus plus nothing. That's salvation. But boy, the church can bring flavor to the walk you have with the Lord throughout life. You're pouring into people, they're pouring into you, right? It can be fortifying and exciting and add flavor to it. Without the church, who will be your accountability? 1 Peter talks about. 1 Peter 5:8. Without the church, who will do you good? Galatians 6:10 talks about. Without the church, who will help you be better? Proverbs 27:17 speaks of. Without the church, who will support you? Ecclesiastes 4:12. Without the church, who will pray for you? Galatians 6:2. Without the church, who will shepherd you? 1 Peter 5. It's the Old Testament way to be in a corporate religious experience and have God at the center. Psalm 95, 6-7 says, "Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand." It's the New Testament platform. Hebrews 10, 24-25 say, "And let us consider how to stir up one another to good love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as in the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near." Churches where you are fed, challenged, serve, give, weep, pray, love, and do life together. It's also a place to avoid being hunted. When I look at I have this book, 2 books that my dad bequeathed me when he downsized, as parents do. And one of them is called Death in the Silent Places, and one is called Death in the Long Grass. And they're both, it's a New York Stock Exchange broker who became a big game hunter in Africa in like the 20s. And they're fascinating, terrifying and fascinating. I've decided I do not need to become a big game hunter. I do not have it in me to become a big game hunter in Africa. But he writes about what a lion is looking for, and a lion is not looking for the strong one. He just waits for one that's a little beat up on the outskirts, and that's his prey. And so when we're tight in with each other, we are defending each other. We're looking after each other. We live in Atlanta. We live fairly close to the Georgia Aquarium, within 20 minutes, and so we have passes, and we go down there. We'd like to bring people down there, and it's a lot of fun for us. In the Georgia Aquarium, if you've ever been, it's a lot of fun. There's the Shark Tank, which is one of my favorites. I love the Shark Tank. They have the hammerheads, and they have all the other brands. The hammerheads are the cool ones. That's the ones I look at. And they have this giant ball of fish that swim. They're about this big, and they swim in this circle. And I asked the guy one time, do they really eat the fish? And he's like, oh, no, they're well-fed. They're great. My wife and I 100% saw a shark eat one time. It was there, and it was gone. It was eaten because they swim through it. There was a mistake made, though, in the Georgia Aquarium called Charlie. And Charlie is a fish that looks like all the other fish that are in there swimming in this ball, but he's a different breed, whatever you call fish, species. He's a mistake. He looks similar, but he's just a little bit different. He's a totally different species. And so he swims alone. You'll have this giant ball of fish in this school swimming around, and they're all, causing distraction for the sharks so they don't get nabbed. But Charlie is over there, and he swims by himself, and he's a hero. He's survived. He's a survivor, right? And sometimes he'll even attack the sharks. He's this little guy defending because he's different, and he's like real territorial. But someday I'm going to go, and I always check on Charlie when I go. But someday I'm not going to be able to find Charlie. And nobody will know what happened to him because he swam alone. He was always alone. It's just Charlie. And if we're walking with Christ and we hit this hiccup and we fall down and there's nobody there to pick us up, that's a problem. And so we do life in this corporate religious experience called church. And that's where we are now. We had a dear friend of ours just lose a baby. And it was bad. The baby was stillborn, and they had a very rare 1 in 30,000 medical condition, and they were asked if they wanted to abort the baby, and they said no. God has given this baby life, and we're going to see it through. And it was a real. I mean, it was. They knew that they were going to always lose the baby. At best case scenario, they would hold it for a couple of minutes. The child, Caleb, and they lost him prematurely. This is a couple weeks ago, and they had to go down the doll aisle of the toy store to find an outfit for the baby because the baby was too small for preemie clothes. And I had the opportunity and the honor to sit with him in his house and to grieve with my brother and his wife, and I in their moment of fragileness, right? And that's what we do as a church. We're there. Our Father. We're there together, doing life in Christ, and we're there for each other. And so that's our first thought. Our Father. It's a corporate religious experience. And so that's number 1A, and then number 1B is the idea of Father. And I know you're panicking because we've been here already halfway through, and we're only on number 1B. But stay with me. We have Father, and this is a way for us to understand our relationship. If an animal my brother, this is weird. I have 4 brothers. We just saw each other, most of us. They're spread out. They're all over the country and doing weird stuff, all stuff. And I have one brother who just adopted a parrot. This is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. But it's fine. It's a free country, and you can do whatever you want. But he adopted this parrot that he found on the side of the road or something. This is a true story. He found this parrot, and he's adopted. We grew up with a parrot, which I thought was a bad idea, but that's fine. But he has this parrot. I don't even know what he called the thing. And he has 2 cats. That's the bad idea part, right? I feel like that's kind of it's self-explanatory. I mean, he's smart, not. And so I got the parrot, and when that parrot came, this is a wild animal, right? He comes into his house, and now he is a pet. So I have a way to relate to this, right? I got that. Right? That's easy. When I'm a car guy, right? We have car people in the world? Yeah, cars. Motorcycles too. Don't ride motorcycles, they're dangerous. And so, car guy, and so when I get a car, it's a possession, this piece of metal that I'm very attached to, right? It's a possession. How do we relate to, when I get married, I have my wife, and it's my wife. How do we relate to this being that is not you and me? God is not man. You can't go touch him. He doesn't have a body, right? His son does. But this is God. How do we relate to him? And so he says, well, relate to me in this term, our Father, our Father. How are we able to do that? How are we able to become children of God? Because we're bought by the blood of Christ. John 1 says, but to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. So what? Who cares? It's your child of God. Put that on your shirt, right? Who cares? Well, I have two girls. I'm a girl dad. And my daughters have rights with their bloodline. Not great rights, okay? It sounds cool. It's not really that great. I mean, people use my name, to tell you they deleted something. Oh, we nixed that. Never heard that one because my last name is Nix. Got it? Nixed that. And so there's not great rights, but there's some rights. For example, when they come to my front door, they don't knock. All right? They just walk in. They have access to me. They have they have rights. What rights does Christ buy you? Well, Hebrews 4 says, let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Let us come with confidence. What does confidence have the idea of? It means the idea of absence of fear when speaking. I was reading this book by, I don't remember. I was going to sound cool by saying I read this book by so-and-so, but I can't remember who it was by. It doesn't really matter now, does it? But it was called Hunting the SS. And it's the story of when World War II ended, the SS women, got away, right? The majority, there's too many of them, right? There's people that hunted the Jews, that hunted the Allies, and they just got away. Well, the Jews started hunting them. The Allies, Americans, started hunting them to bring them to justice. And they found, and some of them moved to South America because there was a German settlement there, town. And they would talk about some of them that survived the longest, what it was like being raised by an SS man. And one of the kids would say, well, if we ever said the wrong thing, we were slapped immediately. We always feared saying the wrong thing because our dad would hit us. So they couldn't come boldly to their father. Right? There was no boldness there. There was fear in that relationship. And because of the blood of Jesus, I can come to God, having failed, with confidence that he still loves me, our Father. There's rights with that. If God is my Father and I am his child, what does that mean? What do good fathers want for their children? For them to be close. We just went down to St. Petersburg, where my parents now live. And my parents, it's just weird, family's weird. It's like this group of adults that get together and hang out. And we all have these varied interests, but because we're in this bloodline now, because we're all part of the family, it's normal. It's where we go to my parents' house and we all visit, right? You do this with your kids and your grandkids, right? And your parents and your aunts and uncles and all this. And so they want to be close. Your parents want to be close to you, and you want to be close to your parents. They want you to be behind you in danger when it's too great for you. I want my children to be behind me in danger when it's too great for them. I'm a dad. I'm a girl dad. And so my wife grew up in Oregon. But night noises are still my responsibility. And it's bad because I'm scared of the dark. I'm still scared of the dark a little bit. Like when I go home at night, alone, every light on in the house. Every light. Because there could be a bad guy somewhere. And I want to make sure I see him, okay? And he sees me. I don't know what he's going to be thinking about when he sees me. But night noises are my responsibility. If I hear a noise in the middle of the night, there is no one else that I could turn to and be like, you're going to get that, right? It is my responsibility. My responsibility as the husband and the father. Nobody else. There's no dog. There's no security guy. It's just night noises. That's your job. And so I get up and I patrol the house or whatever and make sure it's just the neighbor's cat wailing away. I don't know why they wail in the middle of the night, but they wail. It's my job. When danger is too great for you, that's God's job. It's part of his responsibility as a father. It's what do good fathers want for their children to be bold in facing their fears? But I don't protect my children from every danger. Right? Some dangers they need to experience. Some fears they need to experience, right? When my daughter is riding a bicycle, I don't wrap her in bubble wrap and duct tape. She needs to fall. So she could learn it's okay to fall. And that she'll survive, and it'll be okay. Good fathers want their children to be good. And then I want them to know my provision, but seek to invest back into the family. You know, my daughters right now are eating my food. Not much because they're small. But eventually it's going to be more. Probably my granola, my blessed granola that I'm enjoying right now, to make more granola. But they're eating my food right now. And someday, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And someday, though, I will probably expect them to kind of contribute back into the family. They'll go get married, and they'll God willing, and then please, and then they'll come back with food and grandchildren, right? But both food and grandchildren, and they'll invest back into the family. And so that's 1A and 1B. Our Father. Let me give you this thought. They act like a child of God. Our Father makes us think if God is our Father, then we should have a way that we act, don't we? We have family expectations. One of my family expectations that I live to this day that my mother instilled in us is that my mom and dad had 5 boys. It was my mom, my dad, 5 boys. So it was my mom and 6 boys, essentially, is what we're talking about. Even the dog and the bird, because we had a parrot, were boys. Everybody was boys, the whole thing. I don't know why. That's just how it worked, okay? And so I worked this out, though, because I got married, and my wife has 5 brothers. And so she understands me, right? It's good. But we had these rules, and one of the rules was you had to wear a belt if you were leaving the house, and your pants had belt buckles, or belt loops. Like, if you had belt loops, you had a belt on. There was no saggy britches for the Nixes. There was no sagginess, okay? We were wearing belts the entire time. So another rule was, and this was there's those unspoken family rules. One time I went to a camp, and somebody made a necklace for me. I was like 15. Oh, this is so cool. I've never had a necklace, right? My dad didn't wear one, but he had never said anything about it. Never. Apparently it was an unspoken rule. And I got home, my dad picked me up from the Greyhound station because we were riding in style. And I still like riding the Greyhound occasionally to be with my people. And I got home, and my dad, we were sitting in the driveway. He had turned off the car. We had not said a word about the necklace up to this point. He said, take the necklace off. Got out of the car, walked to the house. That was the end of the discussion about the necklace. I have not worn a necklace since that day, or desired to as a male. Apparently, it is against the rules as Nixes. There's no necklaces for males. Apparently, some males are allowed to. We are not. We are not the allowed to, chosen ones, okay? And there are rules for being a child of God. You're kind. Be ye kind. Tender-hearted. Forgiving. I think your pastor spoke about it this morning. Reconciliation. 1 John 3 says, see what kind of love the Father has given to us that we should be called the children of God. And we are. The reason why the world does not know us is it does not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now, and what we will be has not yet appeared. But we know that when he appears, we shall be like him because we shall see him as he is. And everyone who has or who thus hopes in him purifies himself as he is pure. There's a way we live, an expectation for how we live as Christ brothers and sisters, as God's children. There's expectations. And then what else does our Father teach us? Well, there's that heaven is my hope. Our Father, which art in heaven. Folks, God is somewhere. He's not just an idea. Right now, on May 25th in 2025, God is in a place. He's sitting on a throne in some cosmos or space called heaven. He isn't dwelling in the slums. My wife and I had the opportunity to go to France this year, which is a lot of fun. And I'd never been to the countryside of France. We got to go to the D-Day beaches. Very memorable and humbling to stand in a place where so much American blood has sacrificed themselves for our freedom, so that we can gather tonight and be in this place and be free to worship the God that we love. And part of that trip was we went to Versailles, which is the big palace of the Sun King. They estimated that if you had to rebuild it today, it's $2 billion. $2 billion with a B, not a million, billion with a B. It has 2,300 rooms. 2,300 rooms in this guy's house, this guy's palace, 2,300 rooms. And there's opulence, and it was too much opulence for a country American to comprehend that somebody would desire to live in that. But it could create that. But if in heaven, God's roads are made of gold. It must be pretty nice. God has built what Jesus called paradise without you and without me and without our money or our effort or our time. He is in a home that I'm going to, and his home is fine. John 14 says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way where I'm going." Heaven is Jesus, an endless time to explore, and time to have no goodbyes, and endless light. And hell is the opposite of that. I've been working on a sermon on hell for a number of years now, and in my heart, I'm formulating, because I want to preach it someday to our teenagers there at the church. And as I get older, there's some concepts of hell that really terrify me. And one is that the idea of constant darkness. Because in my life, there's darkness, but there's also, light can invade that darkness, right? I can turn on a lamp and there's going to be light in the darkness, right? And the sun is always coming. But as I get older, I desire light. I don't want to, the thought of living in Alaska where there's those endless nights, I'm good without that. I don't need that. I don't want that. I love being able to see where I am and where I'm going at all times. But then the idea of being confined bothers me. And the idea of not being able to explore and be free. And we celebrate that this weekend, right? To go where I want to go and do what I want to do. And hell is that. It's confining, and it's darkness, and it's without Christ and without God. And heaven is just this opposite place. It's endless time to explore and not say goodbye and experience the love of Christ. Folks, this life is not the end, and we need to be hoping in the next. Our Father which art in heaven. It's not our Father which art somewhere, right? It's our Father which art in heaven, a place that we are hoping for, and goodness is there. And it says, hallowed be your name. So we have our Father which art in heaven, number one, and then hallowed be your name. Hallowed be your name. Hallowed has the idea to make holy, to set apart. It's funny that this theme is repeated because we have this in Exodus 20, right? It's the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, right? So hallowed has the idea of setting this apart. Have my name, God's name, reside in a special place in your life. Why? Because the name of God is the summation of all you know and feel about God. My wife is wife. Her name is Leah, and that for me represents she's a good wife. She's my wife, and I love her, and she's a good mom, right? And she's a pastor's wife, so she ministers in our church as well, and she's sweet and she's kind. If I only had one picture of my wife, the memory of her, I wouldn't want someone to take that memory. If I only had, let's say phones didn't exist, I wouldn't want somebody and I only had one picture of my wife, I wouldn't want them to take that and clean a toilet with it and then throw it away. I would stop them. I'd be like, no, that's all I have to remember her. Right? It would be all I have, and it would be very important to me. And so a name is That's just, a photograph is just a snapshot in time. A name is the summation of all, not just a physical characteristic in a moment of time, right? Because we all change. But the summation of everything we know up to that point, or up to this point, right? And so when somebody says a name to you, you're not thinking about it, but that name is conjuring all the memories that you have, right? All the feelings, good and bad, and it's this summation of. Now you're not going through every memory, right, and every feeling, but their character is coming to mind. Oh, I trust that person. I don't trust that person. Oh, I love that person. I don't really. I struggle to love that person. Oh, that person's an enemy, or that person's a friend, right? That person is somebody that's dear to me, that person maybe somebody I don't really know that well, right? And a name is really, really important, and I had to cherish this. You know, if there was a fire in my home, I have not actually burned down a house yet. I have burned down 4 cars, I think, at least 4 cars, and 1 large backyard, but that's been it. Just those 5 things. And I haven't burned down a house yet. But if it'd probably be Pierce that was with me if I did burn it down. Seems to go that way somehow when we're together. Pierce and my buddy. And we did some sketchy stuff together. And if I burn down a house on accident, which I hope not to ever do, because I would like to experience that, what would you get out of your house? You know what it is. It's your pictures, yeah, your photo albums. That's the first thing people go for, right? They get get their phone, grab their phone, but they want those pictures, those family pictures that they can't replace. Those are the only ones. And so those memories, that should be when we think of God's name, hallowed be your name. It should be set apart in your mind. The question for you is, are you in proximity to God and have spent the time learning about him so that the feelings and knowledge that are evoked when you hear the name of God is positive, is set apart? You must taste and see for yourself that the Lord is good. It isn't God's job to show you himself. It is your job to discover him, to find out why he is wonderful. And the name has significance. You think about the idea of God's name. It has significance. We must make sure that we don't mar the name of God with poor theology. You know, my dad's name is Arthur. People don't call him Andy. It's not the same. They call him Arthur because that's his name, or Art for short. All right? But Arthur, that's his name. And I call my wife Lee. I don't call her Jessica, right? It's just not her name. And so when we look at the theology of our lives, we need to make sure that we understand about God is correct. And you say, well, why would I believe something that's incorrect? Well, because maybe somebody taught you that, or because you had a really bad experience that caused you to come up with a theology, to come up with something that is not true. And I always have to go back to Scripture and say, what does God say about himself? What do I see in the pages of Scripture? Let me give you the rest, and we're about halfway through, so let me give you the rest of the ideas, and we'll be done. Let me give you quickly the rest of the ideas. The idea of your kingdom come. God is working off a plan. It says, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. He has a plan. He's not up there. I was driving home to Atlanta yesterday so I could be at our church this morning and then drive back to here. And I was driving home yesterday to Atlanta after dropping my wife off. She spent the weekend here. And I was watching this guy text while he was driving. But he has both handed it. He wasn't even faking it. This is in downtown Atlanta, full rush hour, like full traffic. And I was thinking, what are you doing? As I'm passing him to not get hit, right? And then I realized as I passed him, oh, he's driving one of those brand new Mercedes. He's got that autopilot on. He knows exactly where he's going. He has a plan, though it appears that he does not, right? And you should never text and drive. Okay, I don't know what the rules are on that. But it appears that he does not have a plan, but he actually does. And sometimes God appears to be out of control, that he is not in control, but he's always sovereign, right? And so his kingdom is coming. He has a plan, and it's his kingdom come, and his son be the king. And are we ready for that? He says, your will be done. Am I receptive to the will of God? Verse number 10 says, your will be done. Am I receptive to the will of God being done in my life? And we'd say, yes, of course. But I'm a Christian on Sunday night at a church on a holiday weekend listening. how could I not say yes to that? What if God's will is pain for you? Like Jesus in the garden. Not my will, but thine be done. God's will could be bad circumstances for our good. Am I okay with that? And then it continues on, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God isn't interested in working where we don't want him. His will is always done in heaven, but it seems that there is a time and place where God's will is not executed on earth because we don't ask him for it to be done in word or in deed. Sometimes my actions say, God, do not work right now. I got this, right? And so I need to be receptive to him. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What you speak up there, God, let it be done in my life. And sometimes that's going back to that reconciliation this morning. Sometimes that's making reconciliation. Forgiving people. I was at a luncheon the other day with somebody that had experienced traumatic injustice in their life. I'm not a crier. I don't cry. But this man had experienced horrific things at the hand of his family, who was a Christian. Christians. And boy, I need to make sure that what I say lines up with God's will of forgiveness and mercy and justice and grace and righteousness at all times. And it says, give us this day our daily bread. Again, we're going back to that partaking in communal prayers, which is what you're doing on Sunday nights in your prayer time, which is fantastic. Like some of the fondest memories of my father are fulfilling that New Testament concept in Acts 2, as it says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship and the breaking of bread and the prayers. He says, give us this day our daily bread. They're partaking in communal prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. They're doing this together, and they're focusing on today. Give us this day our daily bread. This is hard for us to understand because we have refrigerators and credit cards that in every meal we have is probably not the one that was just designated for today, right? I also know what I'm going to probably eat tomorrow and next week, right? You only buy bananas every couple days. You buy milk and it's good for a week or two, right? And so we buy these things. We don't go to the store every day. It's not our culture. But in this culture, it was give us this daily bread. And this verse should transcend the cultures, right? We shouldn't look at God and say, just because I have money in the bank doesn't mean I don't need you. I need God daily for everything. Give us this day our daily bread. I need to come to him, and it reminds me to come to him for little things, right? He says, give us this day our daily bread. Isn't it surprising that God says, hey, or Jesus says, hey, pray about the little things. Pray about the food that you need on your table tomorrow. I want to hear about that. And it really tells us that the Father wants to hear about our lives. You know, as a daddy, I want to hear about my girls' lives. I came back into the hotel room today, and I'd been on the road, and my youngest was sleeping, and I was trying to wake her up so I could hear about her little life. I wanted to hear what my little daughter wanted to tell Daddy, right? Was she going to tell me? Is it literally anything I don't know? No, I probably know everything that she's about to tell me, okay? But because she's my daughter, I want to hear that. Give us this day our daily bread. God, I'm coming back to you today because I need to trust you for today, just like I trusted you for yesterday. And maybe God doesn't tell us to have 20 years planned out because it's not healthy for us to have 20 years planned out. I'm all about planning and saving, okay? I know to go the Anth Sluggard verse. But maybe God says, I'm not going to show you what the next 20 years is like because I want to go on this journey with you. And every day I want to commune with you. I don't want to, God could lay out like this is your packet of food for today, and your packet of food for tomorrow, and the packet of food for next week, and in 20 years I'll see you, and you're good to go. Right? But he says, no, I want to be in today, and then in your tomorrow, and then your next Tuesday, and then in a month, and in a year, I want to do this life together with you. So give us this day our daily bread, God. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Be well-versed in forgiveness, like muscle memory. But then also expect others to fail you. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Other people will fail you, especially in the church. That's okay. That's okay. opportunity for us to represent Christ and extend forgiveness to them. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We need to prioritize a holy life, but also recognize that God has power over Satan. And it's, even though he's depicted as a roaring lion, that God has at all times power over him to deliver us from him. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I hope you've seen, as we've spent just a couple minutes in this passage, the love of a father for his children in these verses, and how much he wants to do life with you. I work with teenagers, and this is great. It's like free drama. It's fantastic. Every week, I relive the excitement of dating vicariously. I'm like, oh, I remember those memories. They were stressful. But on this side, I can go home and sleep well because it's not stressful for me, right? But I get to hear about it. And I'm like, it's better than the soap opera, right? It's amazing, and I love it. And people are like, oh, it's so stressful dating, and it's so stressful being in a relationship, and knowing, is this the one? They all want to know, is this the one? Does God have one for me? Maybe. Keep working. But get a job. I think about how much, like, the more I talk to them in this time of their life and in this stressful time of their life, and it is stressful, how much it's part of the adventure. And so that's the word I've started to use with them. This is an adventure in life. It's not stressful. It shouldn't be stressful, right? It's part of the adventure of life. And an adventure is fun if you're going on it with somebody that's competent, a guide. And we have a guide. We have a loving Heavenly Father that knows what he's doing. And so the adventure can be okay. And so I hope you've seen that in this passage tonight, and hope you look in your own time back at the Lord's Prayer, and you can see it through there. Will you close with me in prayer? Father, thank you for the opportunity to just spend a few minutes with these sweet people. Thank you for their attention. Lord, thank you for your love for us and how evident it is in this passage. Over and over again, we see your fingerprints of kindness and goodness and provision and tenderness, and we're so grateful. Lord, I don't know if every one of these people had a good dad or not, to represent you well, what having a good dad is like. Father, but we thank you that you are a good father to us, that you never betray us, that you always know what we need, and you always want to hear from us, and we're so grateful for that. We're humbled that you love us, and we want to say we love you too. In Jesus' name I pray.